Welcome back to another episode of the Authentic Man podcast, a mini episode, which I do on the weekends, to touch on something that I've been working on often with my one-to-one clients. I'm a men's dating, relationship and intimacy coach. I help men have a deeper experience themselves, their relationships and their lives in general. Actually, it's a big part of what I do, is helping men get more out of the life that they're living. And today I'm going to talk about a topic that is really close to home for me, because it's my relationship in many ways. You know, how have I been able to help my anxiously attached partner? If you listen back to some of the other episodes, there's you can listen to an episode at 100 if you really want to get some details and about me and also in our relationship, as well as another episode we did about anxious avoidant as well, to get a lot of details about that as well. And I'll give you an opportunity to learn even more about that at the end of the podcast episode. But I want to talk about really how we help each other. It's particularly about how I help her to be less anxious, actually, and which really helps me be happier, helps our relationship be healthier, because ultimately that's a really important part of this kind of symbiotic existence of relationship, is actually you help heal each other. It's a big part of relationship but often doesn't get talked about, is that a lot of our wounding, I'm going to touch about that in the attachment styles, a lot of our wounding comes from being in relationship, often with our parents. Ultimately, so much of our struggles come from our parents. So it comes from relating, right? Relating because we have a relationship with our parents. And we then take that attachment style and then we transplant that onto the partners and romantic partners we have in life. That is a simple, really simple way of which it is. So first of all, what is an anxious attachment, right? Some of the characteristics are a fear of abandonment. This can be like, you might go away for a little bit of time. They get anxious. They start worrying. They overthink about you, what you're doing, and so forth. They're looking for lots of reassurance. Often, anxiously attached people, especially at the beginning of relationships, they want the relationship to be official quite quickly. They get separation anxiety, meaning when they're away from their partner, they get worried, they get fearful, they start to make up stories about the relationship, something's wrong. One of the things that I've experienced in this relationship and others is where, you spend a couple of nights apart and your partner, the attached partner, has like taken a message completely the wrong way and they're worried and fearful, and it's like they've lived a whole world of reality and you come back together and for you everything's fine, and for them they're like really stressed and worried about the relationship and you're like hello, and then they kind of maybe feel to you that they're overreacting about something really small. There's just a few basic things. There's a lot of them, right? There's a lot of kind of characteristics, but those are some of the ones that are kind of really obvious and we experience. And really, like I said, separation, sometimes it can be some emotional volatility. So that means like in arguments, anxious people sometimes really fly off the handle and they may not be able to control their emotions and their fears and their worries, and they shouting and screaming. And that's not all anxiously attached people, but that's some of them definitely that I've experienced as well. These have emotional volatility because they have a lot of emotion they're experiencing. So how can you help them in relationship? And this is a really important part because, like I said, I believe relationships are a form of healing. A healthy relationship is a form of healing. So one of the most important things you can do if you're an avoidant person like myself, I hadn't mentioned that part, the avoidant, anxious kind of trap, they attract each other like, I don't know, man, flies to shit. Or I'm trying to think of other very obvious things, rabbits to grass, they attract each other, right? Part of that is because as an avoidant person, you see the emotional capacity and the emotional expressiveness of your anxious partner, and deep down, that's what you want. So the best way for you to experience is that by being in a relationship with someone like that. And it's not a conscious choice necessarily. And the anxiously attached person sees the avoidance person's ability to really be very clear-headed often and very neutral and very calm in the face of difficulty and so forth. And they're attracted to that because there's also an element of the things that we don't have in ourselves. That's another aspect of this kind of magnetism between the two. And if you don't do this sort of work that I'm going to talk about, if you don't do this stuff, your relationships will be full of turmoil. They'll be full of disagreement, misunderstandings, arguments. You actually get to the point where you just believe relationships don't work. And I say this because That's what I've experienced, and that's what some of the clients that come to work with me find, is that they don't think relationships can work. So number one thing, most important thing to learn to do as an avoidant person with an anxious person is communicating. Learning to communicate regularly and consistently, right, is very important. As an avoidant person, you just can keep to a minimal level of communication between someone, right? And the important thing is like really being consistent and honest and clear with your communication and your feelings and your emotions. And that is going to cause reactions in the other person. But over time, it smooths out because they attune to your consistency and they know where they stand with you. It makes a huge difference. And at the beginning, it can feel really difficult for the avoidant person to do these communication techniques, and learning to really communicate and listen is also really important. And not shut down and stop talking and keep all their emotions and feelings to themselves, because they believe if I do that, then everything's going to be okay. Let me just not upset the apple cart. Let me tell you, it doesn't work. You fuck up the apple cart, the apples fly everywhere. You get apple in your face. And trust me, because I work with many, many men that have come to me when the apples are in their face. The apples are all over the fucking house, and they're looking to rectify things. So clear, consistent communications of feelings and emotions. That means you need to learn to feel your emotions, right? And express them, right? And that's a really important part. I'm not going to go into the details of that. I've got plenty of podcasts, and that's the work I do with people one-to-one and in my group programs as well. Building trust, really important, right? Anxious people need like consistency and trust, right, from their partners. And you do this through consistent actions and being your word. This is a very masculine thing, actually, for men. It's like being your word, being consistently doing and being the things you say you're going to do. If you're going to show up at 5 o'clock, be there at 5 o'clock. And if you're going to be late, text at 4:45 saying I'm running a bit late. There's something as simple as that. Or if you say you're going to text when you get home, text when you get home. It's just consistency, right? That sort of consistency makes a big difference, especially in the beginning of your relationship. Because once you create a certain level of trust and consistency, right, years down the line, it becomes much easier. This is the thing that happens to a lot of anxious men, is we think, oh shit, this is how it is at the beginning. This is going to be like this forever. And it's not. It's because maybe you're being inconsistent with your word. You're not showing up in the ways that you said you would. You are, forgetting key bits of information, or you're not expressing, love in the way that your partner needs, or love at all, right? Building trust, really important. Expressions of love. This wasn't actually my list, but as I said it there, expressing care, attention, and love is a really nourishing thing to an anxious person's nervous system, right? And if their nervous system is relaxed and regulated, as you can learn about in this previous episode I did with James and Jamie about nervous system regulation, they are calmer and more relaxed and more able to be connected to you and be trustworthy of you, right? So showing love, care, and attention. And this can often be difficult for avoidant people, because maybe we struggle to say loving words, whether it's like, I love you, whether it's holding hands, whether it's of care and affection. Intimacy is a difficult one. I mean, sexual intimacy, because, it can be easy for someone who is emotionally distant to be sexually intimate, but often anxious people need a level of emotional intimacy to be sexually intimate. So that's also really important. Building emotional intimacy into your relationship with a trust and showing love. Very, very important. Some of the things here is clear boundaries with your partner. Actually, as an avoidant person with your anxious person, setting clear boundaries with them. Yeah, so that they know where they stand with you. Don't set a boundary just because you think it makes them happy and then not adhere to your boundary, right? Because that then makes them more anxious. If you can set boundaries and be clear and consistent with your boundaries, they know where they stand. They know where the edge of the football pitch is. They know where the halfway line. They know where the goal line is. All these things are really important, right? You can set boundaries compassionately and caringly, as well. Managing conflict. Yeah. When conflict arises, being calm and patient. Yeah. Being calm and patient and not shutting down. Is staying present, being there, leading the conflict in many ways. In that if the voices get raised or people start calling names, is going, hey, this is not how I want to do conflict. And maybe that's the boundary you set. You don't do calling names. I'm a big fan of that. I don't believe I wouldn't be in a relationship with someone who shouts and calls names and questions character and stuff like that. So yeah, so something like that is also important, is managing conflict, right? Now, this is just like a snippet of what you can do to really help your partner. I've got a workshop coming up with my partner Orsa, which is called Making Anxious Avoidant Relationship Work. And in this, we're going to dive into probably 2-ish hours of what we've seen with ourselves and also the couples that we've coached. We've coached numerous couples over the last year and a half, always action avoidant, and they've always been in some rut, some difficulty, and we've really helped them smooth out the relationship. Like there's a few of them who came to us when their relationships were really at the brink of collapse, and they're now happy together and loving. So that's really been beautiful to witness. So if you're interested in this workshop, the link's going to be in the show notes. You can just click on it and you can buy a ticket. It's on the Tuesday, the 7th of May, and it'll be the two of us. It's 7:30 UK time, but the details are there. Because it's going to be a wonderful workshop to really go deeper into the stuff that I've touched on today, and also give you lots of other tools. And you'll be able to ask us questions as well. You ask us very honest and open questions, and we'll be there to answer them for you. So I'm just going to jump out now. You know, if you want some one-to-one work, also my email's down below. You can contact me and we can talk about that. But this workshop would be a wonderful place to start if you're in this sort of relationship where, you know, you're shutting down, you want independence, they want closeness, their fear of you losing you, it creates arguments. You know, that's the very typical anxious avoidant relationship. But I'll let you get on with your day. Ciao, ciao.